All right, here at Doc Bennett Hall of Fame weekend. You're going to be inducted Order of Merit. So, just first, tell me about that. How that feels. You're going to be in here with all these wrestling greats.
Well, nobody starts out thinking that one day doing what they're doing, they're gonna go in the Hall of Fame, and it's certainly is unexpected. I didn't really expect it. It's an honor. It's humbling, and it's just one of those things. It's like a real serendipity that comes along, and one of those unexpected joys that part of being involved in the sport.
And take me through your career a little bit. How you got to this point. I mean, you have a little bit of a different career than most people that get here.
Well, I guess I've done a little bit of all of it throughout my year. I started out, I was on the inaugural team that my high school had, the very first team they had, and I wrestled in high school, wrestled in college, went into high school coaching. I coached high school a little over 20 years in the state of Washington. Got involved with USWF first, and then became USA Wrestling, and became probably really involved with them in about 85, 86, right after the 84 Olympics, and eventually was their director of broadcasting as well as their national freestyle developmental coach. So I've worn several hats over the years.
And all the while, you a doctor on top of that, right?
Well, not all the while. There was a point where I gave that up entirely, and that was over 20-some years ago. So I've been strictly wrestling for over 20 years. But,
So, I mean, you've been on the forefront, I guess, of the video aspect of things. Can you talk about that a little bit? Your role in sort of developing the technique videos, the videos at USA
Well,
Wrestling.
yeah, we were probably one of the first to do, what I guess I'd call high-quality technical videos. But we were, Daryl and Dwayne Keller, the Keller twins, and I were good friends. Daryl and I coached together for years, and we were talking one day about the fact that we wished we had footage of being able to do this technique when we were young enough to really do it right, when the timing was right and the feel on the mat was right. And we decided, why not grab some of the young guys that are up and coming and start doing some video? And so we did, and I was doing events and stuff too, recording them, so I thought, well, let's tie some of the live examples with the teaching examples, and we started doing some of that. And some of the earlier ones we did were actually with Joe Gonzalez was one of the early ones we did, and Gene Mills and Mark Schultz, those kinds of guys. And I did John Smith's first videos, his low single and his offensive defense videos. And we did a number of them over the years, and we started doing them for USA Wrestling. And in addition to that, Fila had me doing technical videos for Technique after the World Championships, officials videos, and I've done a lot of officiating tapes over the years. So it's just something I kind of fell into as a part of being a coach.
Well, how do you feel those videos from the beginning to now, have helped wrestling grow, have helped the development, I guess?
Well, I hope they've helped. I don't know. Today, if you're not using video, I think you're missing out. I really don't know how you could, I don't know how you could be a coach or be a competitor and not be looking at video, not studying your opponents, not looking at technique, not being aware of what's going out there. I've always said that a champion has the ability to impose his will upon his opponent at his discretion, but how are you going to do that if you don't know something about your opponent? And I think that the key is to be able to study film, to improve yourself. So many times in coaching an athlete, you'll say, you're doing this, you really maybe ought to think about going, well, I don't do that. Well, here it is on video. You think you're doing it now, and yeah, they realize but they aren't aware of it until they see it. They think they're doing something different. So I think video has been tremendously valuable from a teaching standpoint, a coaching standpoint, and from an archival, historical standpoint. I think it's invaluable. I mean, to be able to go back and look at John Smith at his prime and Dan Gable, things like that, it's important.
Well, then, did you see it when you started things up, developing into what it is today? I mean, it's all over YouTube. You got sites like Flow that have the video all over the place. And
well, to be honest with you, I did.
Okay.
I'm real, and I've got a mind that likes to. I delve into where technique is going and where it's going. And guys that know me, if you ever talk to me, will say, well, docs really seem to have a knowledge of this, knowledge of that. Well, it's because it's been important to me to stay on top of what's happening. And, I'd read articles, see, well, this is where it's going, and I could see where this was going to happen within sports, not just wrestling, but within sports. And we actually started live streaming at USA Wrestling long before anybody else did. We used to stream some of the Big Ten and the Big 12 matches back in the mid-'90s, and nobody was streaming stuff then. And we were doing it with using source and media to do it. And so we kind of started doing that stuff way back, and I knew that it was eventually going to take off and be a wave of the future. It was all a matter of bandwidth. When bandwidth gets big enough and fast enough, it's capable of doing things that even television can't do.
You're speaking to my heart right now. No. So, just last thing, you've been through a lot from the wrestling side of things. What sticks out to you? What do you remember the most within your time in wrestling?
Well, I think, and part of this award is definitely, I think what's gone on in the video world for me, but I've never viewed myself as a video guy. I'm a coach.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason I got involved in video. It's always been about coaching for me, and especially developmental. I loved high school coaching. I loved club coaching. I loved being a developmental coach. If they'd have said, you want to take over the national team, I'd say, no, I like helping Kevin, but this developmental job is where my heart is. I love working with the athlete that's in that developmental phase, and to me, it's been about coaching. But to be a coach, you have to be willing to teach yourself. Might like a parachute. If it isn't open, it doesn't do you any good. And you have to be willing to continue to learn, I think. And that's one thing video does. It keeps your mind fresh. It keeps you learning. It makes you a better coach. And I got involved in video because of coaching, and that's what I see myself as a coach.
All right. Well, big weekend for you. You got anything else for me before I let you go?
No, the Hall of Fame is I've seen it develop. I used to come down here. When I first started working with the USA Wrestling, it was USWF. Then their offices were here in this building, and I've watched it grow. I've watched it develop. I've seen where the plans are going for the future. This is a tremendously important thing for wrestling because it's where we have a record of our roots, of our past accomplishments, and the people that are in here are part of the history of the sport. And I think it's important for young people getting involved in the sport to know that this is here, to know that there's a history. And I think that for them to look back on people once their lives are recorded in here, I think it's a good thing for them to be able to say, hey, you know what, they're just like me, I can do that too. And this proves that.
Excellent. I appreciate the time, Doc.
Yep.